Hi guys, today I'm reviewing the Hyundai Tucson. Now this is a car that I've actually reviewed fairly recently, but that previous vehicle that I drove was the base 2-liter model, front wheel drive, 123,000 ringgit, 124,000 ringgit lah. Okay, the Tucson of course was recently facelifted. So the pre-facelift version, I've driven both the 1.6 turbo and the diesel version sometime last year. So today I am driving the facelifted version again, and this car here that I'm driving, this is the 1.6 turbo. So this is the highest spec version of the Tucson. 20,000 ringgit more expensive. You get more performance from the 1.6 liter turbo engine, still front wheel drive, but instead of a 6-speed torque converter automatic, you get a fancier 7-speed dual clutch transmission. You also get more in the way of features, but that is something I'll dive into deeper detail with the with my walk around. But the most important, I would say, the most important addition to the kit count when you go from the 2-liter to this one, or two of the most important additions. First, rear air-con vents. Yes, that's right guys. The 2-liter model does not have rear air-con vents, and I think at this price range, not quite acceptable. And what's worse is the tunnel, this center tunnel, the trailing edge of the center tunnel is molded in such a way that if you sit at the back seat of the 2-liter model, you are reminded that they could have spec'd a rear air-con vent in there for you, but didn't, as you sweat during that hot sunny day. Then the other more crucial add-on to this 1.6 turbo in terms of equipment is the increase of the airbag count from just 2, that's right guys, 2 in the 2-liter model to 6 here in the 1.6 turbo. And yes, we can accept that, you know, when you have a 20,000 ringgit price gap, there are bound to be some differentiation in equipment. But seriously, this day and age, 2 airbags at 120,000 ringgit, that's pushing it a little. And overall, right, it just makes that Tucson 2-liter feel like a rental fleet special. This one here, this 1.6 turbo, certainly overall in terms of its equipment, appearance, actually appearance wise the 2-liter is okay, but in terms of equipment, this 1.6 turbo is way more respectable. It misses out on things like Hyundai doesn't offer things like active cruise control lah, or auto braking lah, but you have the basics covered. You have electronic stability control, and that's perhaps the most important thing today in terms of vehicle safety features. All right, now let's jump straight to the driving impressions. Certainly, this car gives you a big performance jump from the 2-liter model. This turbocharged engine, it has a punchy feel to it, and it is properly rapid. Outputs 177 PS, 265 Newton meters of torque. So a committed enough driver, you can actually play ball with a BMW 320i. Okay, yeah, it's that level of output lah. All right, 1.6 turbo. Against the, in terms of driving feel, against the CR-V, this feels more engaging, more responsive compared to the X70. Even though the Proton X70 has an output advantage on paper, but because the X70 is such a heavy car, it doesn't feel anywhere near as pokey or as responsive as the Tucson here. With the X70, the 1.8 turbo engine is just they're just about good enough to not feel underpowered. Whereas the Tucson here, it feels properly rapid and fast if you choose to gun it. I'm seeing an open stretch of road, but it's a housing estate, so I'm not going to fool around here. But if you compare this against the CX-5, perhaps not as quiet or as refined as the CX-5, but not bad. I mean, it is, everything here works smoothly. All the various mechanical underpinnings as you traverse over various sort of roads, it feels like all the parts in this car, they have been fine-tuned well enough that everything worked together in reasonable harmony. So yeah, I mean, in terms of refinement, really this car is not lacking at all. Ride comfort is fairly good, what you would expect in this segment. Handling, not outright sporty like the Tiguan or the Peugeot 3008. So the steering, all right, when you turn corners, the steering is not darty. It doesn't have that agile feel, but it's tidy, it's competent. So it also does not give you a floating sensation. It doesn't feel loose if you want to really push it hard around the corners. And in fact, in recent years, Hyundai has demonstrated increasingly competent chassis tuning. I mean, the more recent Hyundai cars I've driven, most of the time I come out, well, not as engaging to drive as, say, a Mazda, but you always come out feeling, not bad. You get that feeling that they have fine-tuned all the components to work together smoothly and efficiently. All right. Certainly, the overall driving experience is a positive one. All right. There are virtually no major vices or criticisms that I can think of that would make me actively discourage you from getting this car. But really, then again, it also stops there. That is the biggest problem with the Tucson, is that whilst it is, I would say, a product without any major flaws, it is also one that feels like Hyundai is playing it a little too safe. You see, the previous generation Tucson, contrast it with the previous generation Tucson, that one made quite a splash, because when it first came out, together with the Sonata YF, together with the previous gen Elantra, that generation of Hyundai models, they look like they make a big leap from their entirely forgettable predecessors. And when buyers, when consumers, when the market see that, when they look at all those daring fluidic sculpture designs, they sense that Hyundai was at that time a company that is ready to go on the offensive, ready to be daring. But now you come to this one. This is, I would say, by all accounts, this is a superior car to the preceding Tucson. In every measure that I can think of, the driving experience that the Tucson today offers betters its predecessor, the iX35. But the same goes with the Sonata, what was it? The Sonata LM. That was, in all respects, a better car than the Sonata YF. More refined, well built. No, I wouldn't say well built, superbly built. Okay, nothing at all to criticize. But it also felt like it felt like a car that was developed by a company with a mind to consolidate what they already have, as opposed to going all guns blazing to capture even more market share. Because And that kind of approach works when, if your product is already at the level of the CRV, whereby, right, when people shop for 150k SUVs, first choice they'll think of Honda CRV. Even if it's not the first choice, it's the second choice. Then you have in the mix now the CX-5, which is a very stylish product that brings premium features into mainstream pricing. Yes, you have a very expensive flagship diesel variant at 170,000, but at the same time, you also have a very affordable 2-liter petrol engines, no, 2-liter petrol variants that hit the road at below 140,000 ringgit, right? So then you have the Proton X70 as well, that delivers just extraordinary value to the market. So when you're a Tucson, which, no disrespect to Hyundai, a very competent car, yes, but oh, see, this is fast. This thing is fast. When you don't give that wow factor to your product, you become very easy to forget. Now, to put it simple, if you were to come and ask me and say, hey, what do you think of the Hyundai Tucson? I would say, good car. Go ahead and buy it. But if you were to come to me and say, what would I recommend for 150,000 ringgit SUV? The Tucson is not likely to be any one of the first 3 or 4 choices that cross my mind. So when you are in that position, that level of perception by the market, your product needs to go on the offensive. You cannot afford to play it safe until the market thinks of your car, your product, in the same breath as a CRV, as a CX-5. You see, that is where when you look at the Peugeot 3008, the Peugeot 3008, right, is when you dive under its skin, when you look past its futuristic design, the ingredients that make up that car is actually very, very ordinary. When you browse, you see, it has that fancy instrument cluster, but when you browse through it, right, there actually isn't a lot of very advanced features. The functions in that fancy instrument cluster, that Peugeot iCockpit, right, is something you get in any 150,000 SUV. But the way Peugeot presented it, that makes the 3008 feels like 180,000 ringgit, a 200,000 ringgit product, which it is not, but it feels that way. That's when you look at those people with the mindset, hey, I got 150,000 ringgit budget, but I don't want things that everybody buy. I don't want the CRV, I don't want the CX-5, I don't want the X70. Then that is when daring products like the 3008 come into play. Maybe to a certain extent the Kia Sportage, but the Tucson here, for all its lack of flaws, does not have that wow factor to push itself into that sphere, into that consideration pathway by the consumers. So yeah, I mean, it is somewhat unfortunate, because as I drive this car right now, I can really think of no active reason to discourage you from buying one should you decide to do so. And so there we have it. The Hyundai Tucson is the best SUV that you will not remember.